is Ajay Dubey. I am part of FORCEPOINT. We have a wonderful audience. We have all age groups today, starting from 1 to 16. So welcome our youngest audience. We'll ask questions to him. If the guy gives right answer, we'll give chocolates. Or if he asks a doubt, we'll give 10% discount to his father's company. So let's get started. We are slightly behind schedule, so we will rush through. We are not a very big audience here, so we can make it interactive. Feel free to stop us. Though we have 3 topics to cover today, so there is some ground to clear. But if there is a pressing question that you think you should ask, which is getting stuck in your throat, please ask. Stop us, ask. But we will have a Q&A session at the end, so you can also ask. You have a question right now? No. So we can also do the Q&A at the end. So the topic that I will begin with is rethink cybersecurity. Cybersecurity has been around for the past 30-35 years. Suddenly, why should one come and do a rethink? Right? What is there to rethink? There are quite a few things. But to set that platform, today is August 3rd, that means we have done 7 months in 2018 already. So can any one of you tell me what are the significant events in the cybersecurity space that have happened in the past 7 months and 2 days? In the calendar year 2018, some things that have happened. Cybersecurity space.
Bangladesh Bank.
Bangladesh Bank was 2016. 2018. Make in India examples, there are quite a few. Modi ji said make in India, we started hacking in India. So the make in India hacking examples are there. Aadhaar, beautiful. So Aadhaar was hacked or what happened, we don't know. But the Aadhaar data was there in the news, it got leaked. There was significant damage that caused. Anything else? Facebook is such a thing which gets hacked every year. But yeah, Facebook was there. Anything else? Make in India. Very famous thing. I'll give you clues. Jewelers. Jewelry company, na? Mehul Choksi. Punjab National Bank. You know that example, right? Punjab National Bank was there. OnePlus Mobile lost a lot of data. So these are some of the examples that happened in 2018. Anything in 2017? At least one. Make in India, nahi to abroad. Uber was, okay, Uber, I don't know which year, but yeah, Uber was there. So many things happened in 2017. Equifax, which is like the CRISIL of US, 145 million records were stolen. Yahoo, 3 billion, half of the world's population. NSA, which is like CBI in the US, it was hacked. Many ransomware attacks happened. Many ransomware was there, and then of course Deloitte was there, and US elections. 2016 was US elections, right? Donald Trump. 2015 was Ashley Madison and Office of Personnel Management. So every year if you see, there are more attacks than the previous year. Now if you go back and look at your Excel sheets, the budgets that you get from your bosses, your budget organization, or we collectively as an industry, we are spending more than the previous year, suffering more than the previous year. And that's exactly that we need to change, and that is why we have rethink cybersecurity. How can we change that? This can be changed by having what is called as a human-centric security or a human point system. So we will briefly talk about human point system, but to understand human point system, let us try to understand it from a problem perspective. What are the problems that all of us face as an industry today? What are the problems that you face in your work related to cybersecurity? The first one can probably be classified as my data is lying everywhere and it's being accessed from everywhere. Things are going to cloud. Things are lying in my data centers, multiple data centers. Things are lying in the laptops of my employees, sometimes in the mobile phone. How do I protect all that? Second point is too many security solutions. You do POCs, you do RFPs, you do so much of effort in buying security solutions, but security solutions are working fantastically well, but they're working in silos. One solution does not seem to know that the other solution exists. Each one is doing a good job, but they are not talking to each other. There is a SIM which is correlating logs, but then it's not giving you much value. The third point, my personal favorite, is too many alerts. This is undisputed point. You take any security solution, you deploy it, thousands of logs. In a 24-hour period, it's got thousands of logs. You run some kind of tool, you look at the events, hundreds of events. A typical firewall gives you 800 events per day. If you have to analyze each and every event and then take action on it, it is impossible. It is impossible, and it's a repetitive tool. Artificial intelligence could have done a fantastic job. You could have done a wonderful job if you had moved this, to a technology, to a tool. And the fourth point, again, a very interesting point. Cybersecurity is a post-mortem tool. Most of the time, cybersecurity guys will wake up and say, hey, look, this is what happened yesterday. Hey, look, this is what happened 3 days ago. No tool can say this is going to happen after 3 days. This is likely to happen. No tool can say that, hey, look, this guy is behaving suspiciously. He can be a threat to the organization. He can steal data. Looks like his machine is compromised. Looks like his machine is... No tool gives you that predictive analysis. Everything is post-mortem. Everything is post-facto. So these are the 4 big problems that the industry suffers. There is no one product that can solve these problems, but a system can. And human point system, the human-centric cybersecurity that we are talking about, solves this problem. The human-centric security solves these 4 problems. And what we are going to be doing today is we will be looking at how these problems are solved for you by using various products and solutions. So now, this girl has nothing to do with solving the problems. She's just a marketing slide. So how do we go about solving the problems? We do what is called as protect the human point. So to protect the human point, we take all the people on one side. People could be your employees, your teammates, it could be your suppliers, your vendors, right? Your contractors, and it can also be hackers. People. So people are all human beings one side. On the other side, we have data. The data could be on the cloud, data center, it could be in mailboxes, it could be lying in SharePoint servers, it could be lying in laptops. So data is lying, people are there. When people are touching the data, that point, that interaction, that intersection needs to be protected. Right? Whether it's a legitimate transaction, should I allow it? Should I block it? Is the context right? Is it the right time? Is it the right device? Is it the right location? Is it something that is allowed by policy? That decision should be taken at that moment when that person is touching the data. That is called the human point system. All our products, all our technologies are built into it. So what is human point system from a product perspective? This is the system. These are the bunch of products, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 products for you here. These 7 products put together or individually, each of them tries to solve those 4 problems that we discussed. So that is called as human point system. So here we have a bunch of products. We will talk about some of them today. So these products individually do a beautiful job on their own. But if you have, say, a product A and a product B, for example, if you have a web security solution, a proxy solution, and if you want to buy a DLP, these come as an integrated bundled solution. Talking to each other. What is happening in DLP, web security knows. What is happening in web security, DLP knows. The events are exchanged, logs are exchanged. It is 2 different technologies, but it can behave as a composite solution. So most of these solutions, technologies are linked with each other. We will go in a little detail and understand how each of them work and give you what is called as a human point system to basically solve those 4 problems. Just to remind you, the 4 problems were data is everywhere, access from everywhere, too many logs, too many products, disjoint, not talking to each other, and security seems to be post facto. Nothing seems to be predictive. So with that, I would like to invite my colleague Herschel Doshi to walk you through one of the beautiful products that we have. It's called as the DLP suite. Especially for the BFSI segment, the banking industry, we have done extremely well. We have quite a few customers, public sector, private sector, cooperative banks, and a lot of insurance companies who use our DLP solution. So Herschel is a solution expert. He's a national sales manager for this solution across India, and he will walk you through that particular product line. So with that, Herschel, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Herschel Doshi. I basically manage the new logo business for the set of solutions that I'm going to speak about today. And before we get started, uh, Ajay actually kind of took you through some of the key cybersecurity uh, events which happened in 2018. Uh, Unfortunately, he missed the one which happened last week, which was like the BAP of all cybersecurity events. Can anybody kind of tell what happened last week? It was probably the most widely discussed cybersecurity challenges on social media, especially in India. Can anybody recollect what happened? Okay, I'll give you a hint. Uh, One of the actors in that particular event had a surname called Sharma. Now does it ring any bells? Another actor, he's a French hacker by the name Elliot Anderson. Yes. Exactly. So RS Sharma is the chairman of TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, and he was previously the chairman of UIDAI. And what he did is what we call as the bug bounty in the cybersecurity world. That hey, here's what I'm sharing as my information. Let's see what harm can you do to me, right? So he shared his Aadhaar number on his Twitter handle, and he kind of dared the entire world that let's see what you can do with it. Okay, a lot of people, including some ethical hackers, some disgruntled citizens, whatever it is, they kind of sniffed out a lot of information about him, his phone number, his email address. They even tried to deposit 1 rupee into his savings account, so on and so forth. So they tried to do a lot of things. The good part is, frankly speaking, technically speaking, there is no harm which was done to either his identity or any other assets that he owned. Okay. So, but from a cybersecurity world, that's a risky thing to do. Why would you, kind of wantingly share out your personal information and see what harm anybody can do from outside? Okay. But personally, if you ask me, with my 14 years of cybersecurity experience, I think this was one of the best ways to demonstrate confidence in your system. That hey, here I have a system built in, okay, and I dare this to the world that hey, can you breach into my system? And I'll tell you why this is very contextual to what I'm going to be speaking about for the next 30-40 minutes or so, if I have that much time, that is, that the paradigm shift in cybersecurity that we are seeing now is that the risk really is not from outside. Your systems, your infrastructure, your data, yourself, your identities, your processes, your business is not really so much at risk from the outside as it is from the inside. Now let me flip that situation and say that Mr. Sharma would have shared this kind of credential to a administrator in UID who has a lot of access to the database. And just imagine the kind of damage that an insider in UID could have done, right? So it kind of tells us two things. That one, what we are seeing today is a huge shift of cybersecurity incidents emerging from the inside rather than the outside. And second, please do not share your Aadhaar card with anyone, right? With that, let's jump to the key solution which I'm going to be speaking about today, which is FORCEPOINT data loss prevention. I'm sure because you're cybersecurity custodians in your organization, you must have already heard about DLP, you must have either evaluated DLP or you're thinking about it, right? So to that extent, DLP is not new to the cybersecurity world. What we are going to be speaking about new today is how organizations are implementing DLP. What are the best practices that you should be adopting to implement a DLP solution? Secondly, what are the new innovations that we are doing where the industry is going as far as data security is concerned? And third, how DLP is actually becoming a stepping stone to not only uncover cyber frauds, but also uncover a larger risk in terms of financial fraud, procedural fraud, business fraud, so on and so forth. How DLP is becoming a stepping stone for that. So these are the three key messages that we are going to actually be taking away, apart from what ForcePoint DLP really does. So with that, let's kind of recap what Ajay tried to speak about. That ForcePoint as a company has been rethinking cybersecurity for the last 3-4 years, and what we understand is that if we look at human behavior, or if we understand human behavior, that is a key to step ahead of the bad guys. This is a question that I keep asking to everywhere I speak, that till now, why do you think the bad guys were always ahead of the good guys? Why is the cybersecurity industry always only catching up? There's a ransomware attack which happens, so we bring out patches. There's an advanced malicious attack which happens, we bring an APT solution. So there is a patch that we kind of bring in every time there is a new threat in the market. To that extent, we are only playing catch up. We are only responding to the innovation which the bad guys are doing. And do you know one of the key reasons why that is happening? Because we've been always ignoring the most weakest chain in the cybersecurity, which is us humans. Who are these bad guys targeting really? They are targeting your behavior. They are targeting how you approach cybersecurity. They are targeting your attitude, your symptoms, so on and so forth. They are not really after the systems, because they know that just by sending a specific kind of traffic on the system, it's not going to help, because it's already covered again for a lot of kind of vulnerabilities. But if they target you, okay, a lack of security knowledge, you all are cybersecurity professionals, so you might not do things which are detrimental to any asset that you own, but a lot of other employees in your organization who are unaware of how cybersecurity works, they are the key targets for these bad guys. And that's the reason why this particular slide becomes very important, where we have kind of rethought how we apply data loss prevention by understanding the rhythm of our people and the flow of our data, which means that there is an element of behavior that we are now starting to understand and apply controls based on their behavior. And of course, the benefit that you get from the human point is, of course, a lot of visibility, which is not only post facto but even before an incident actually occurs. A lot of control, where you can create a single policy across all vectors, and you get a consolidated view of risk. That hey, I'm not only looking at a specific kind of a risk, I'm looking at enterprise risk as a whole. And we are also trying to make security very, very fluid, because when you talk about behavior, it is not only ones and zeros. There's a lot of gray area. It's not only digital, it's actually analog. It can swing, you must have heard this term called mood swings, right? So, a behavior also goes through those swings, and how, your behavior, changes, security also needs to change accordingly, right? So enforcement, which is very, very fluid, and in conjunction with your behavior, is what ForcePoint is trying to do. And of course, ensure that you have compliance across the various regulations that you follow. Some credentials before I actually go ahead. ForcePoint DLP has been ranked in the leaders quadrant by Gartner for over 10 years now. So even the latest Gartner's quadrant, we have been rated as the leader in DLP. And let's look at first the basics of data loss prevention. How it, what are the key areas of DLP and how it actually functions. Now, when you look at sensitive data or intellectual property or business sensitive data, so on and so forth, there are three modes in which data really operates. One, where your data is actually lying dormant, the legacy data that you've created over years. Second is data in motion, where you send out data through various protocols like say web, email, FTP, chat, so on and so forth. And third, where you're actually using data or consuming data. Say for example, you create a file or you copy a file, you edit a file, you modify it, you delete it, so on and so forth. So that's using your data. These are the three modes of data that typically users engage in, and a typical data loss prevention solution should be able to address all these three modes. The new kid in the block is cloud, where you have to extend all of these, whether data is at rest, data is in motion, or data is in use, irrespective of whether you're using it in your premise or on the cloud. So that's the new aspect. So let's take a look at all of them one by one. So the first one that we are going to be talking about is data at rest. I'm sure all of you who are working with cybersecurity products day in and day out always have this problem that there's a file share where a lot of my sensitive data is stored, legacy data is stored, and I really want to apply a control where a specific business unit is only given access to that particular file share, and then it get extended to things like SharePoint, Salesforce, databases, knowledge management sites, so on and so forth, right? So legacy data has been a typical problem that mid or large size enterprises face, and what DLP really does here is that it scans your repositories where your data is stored and gives you a visibility as to where your sensitive data is lying. So that's your first step which you need to take when you're deploying a DLP solution. The second, where data is in motion, where data is actually moving within the organization or outside the organization, right? This is one of the key vectors of data loss in your organization. 80%, now this statistic has not come from FORCEPOINT, it's actually come from analysts like Gartner and IDC, that 80% of your data loss actually happens over the network. Because say for example email happens to be the most vulnerable channel of data loss, because when you look at your infrastructure, typically Indian companies, you have your peripheral ports on your laptops almost blocked completely. You cannot copy anything to the USB, you cannot burn a CD DVD drive, so on and so forth. You do not have Bluetooth access, so on and so forth, right? So your endpoint is pretty much covered as far as the peripheral ports are concerned. When you take a look at web is almost also protected from a solution like say proxy, where only a specific kind of sites are allowed, specific sites of URLs are allowed, so on and so forth, and you already have controls where malware is blocked, so on and so forth. The only open channel that you can think of without restriction is email. From your domain, you can actually send out an email to any unprotected domain outside. Say for example Gmail, Yahoo, Rediff, so on and so forth, which actually brings out the statistic that email contributes to nearly 80% of the data loss which happens in your enterprise. And that's why network or data in motion becomes a very critical channel for data loss prevention. Sorry, I don't know why it's not going back. Yeah, okay. So endpoint is the third channel where data is in use. So I'm sure the examples that I gave you, that you use your endpoints today, day in and day out, you create files, you modify files, you copy them, so on and so forth. So all the channels that you're seeing here on the screen are typical examples of how you can send out data from your endpoint as well, and it becomes an important channel to protect. And as I mentioned, cloud is the new kid in the block, where you, I'm sure some of you or most of you are adopting cloud in some way or the other, and you must be having plans to port some of your critical workloads or critical data into the cloud. Say for example, Office 365, OneDrive, so on and so forth, right? So it actually becomes very essential for a data loss prevention provider to protect your data on the cloud as well. So what do we do on the cloud really? Typically, if you look at what happens to your data when it moves to the cloud, the first step is you store it, then you want to share it or you want to download it, and that's where it actually becomes a little bit more complex, because the inherent nature of cloud is that you want to allow access to the cloud from any device, be it managed device or an unmanaged device. But you also want to ensure at the same time that you give the same level of controls irrespective of how that particular data is accessed, downloaded, shared, so on and so forth. Now what we've done is we've extended our DLP solution to the cloud, and also in addition to Gatsby, which my colleague Ashwini is going to speak about in a bit, what we have done is we've kind of created a very strong layer for enterprises like you to secure your journey to the cloud. So today you do not have to think whether the data center is in India or not, whether the security policy is applied on the cloud application is as per my standards or not, whether I'll be able to allow cloud access from my unmanaged devices or managed devices or not. All of these questions that you have in your minds right now are answered using a combined Gatsby and DLP integration story that we have. So these are the 4 layers that we typically have as far as data loss prevention is concerned. Now, as I promised in the beginning of the session, that I'm going to be speaking about some best practices and what are the key business value adds that a solution like DLP really gives you, right? And we spoke about behavior also. Now combining both of these, what a solution like DLP really does is that based on the behavior of the user or the intent of the user, it actually helps you enforce specific controls. Say for example, the user, internal user, is not a malicious user. Okay, he does something accidentally. The best example that I give all the time is that it's Friday evening, like it is today, and the employee does not really have a laptop. He works on a desktop typically, so he copies some of the work that he which is pending and uploads it to his personal email personal email ID, so that he can work on it over the weekend at home and then resend it back on Monday, right? What he is trying to do is just trying to get his job done, okay? But unknowingly, he's violating a very critical information security policy in his organization, which says that you cannot send sensitive data to a personal email ID domain, okay? Now those kind of users are actually called accidental users. Typically, what an organization should really do with these kind of users is to start educating them and not tell them that, hey, what you did is wrong and then I'm going to fire you, right? So different pills for different diseases, right? So this is a problem that we see in a very large extent in huge organizations, where employees do these kind of things accidentally. They don't do it with a malicious intent and knowingly, they do it accidentally. And for them, what we typically recommend is build a workflow where you can educate those employees in terms of how you can better your approach to handling sensitive information. The second category, if you look at, and we do it using various functionalities available in FORCEPOINT DLP, say for example end user pop-ups, self-remediation, manager notifications, so on and so forth. The second category is malicious outsider, where somebody is masquerading as yourself. Okay, I'm sure most of you must have read about this thing called compromised user identities, where a malware comes and you steal your credentials and does transactions on your behalf. Okay, down and up was one of the key examples of how compromised identity can create havoc. It used to brute force logins into Active Directories, so much so that AD administrators had to rechange their policy to never kind of disable user ID after unsuccessful login attempts. So because if your machine is infected with down and up, it creates so many login attempts that ultimately your user ID gets locked out, and it's a business disruption use case. So those kind of things where somebody is trying to masquerade as yourself and trying to steal out data. ForcePoint, because it has a malware detection engine also built in, from a web perspective, from an email perspective, it's able to differentiate whether this particular activity is being done by a human being or it's been done by a process or a malware, right? So that's also something that you can actually do. Third is intentional but non-malicious users. This is a very interesting category where somebody who is not very malicious but is disgruntled, that I want to prove a point. I don't mean any harm, but I want to prove a point. For these kind of people, there is a whole lot of visibility that we give to enterprises, where based on indicators of risk, we actually tell you what are the kind of things that are going on wrong. In terms of a very business intelligent policy framework, whether the user is trying to search for jobs or he's displaying discontent, so on and so forth. And the final category, which is the most dangerous one, which is the malicious insider, where we do risky user behavioral profiling, where we tell you that, hey, out of the 10,000 odd users that you have, these are the riskiest users who can actually mean harm to your organization. So the key message that I want you to take out of this particular slide is that when you talk about a DLP solution, it's not a allow or a block kind of a policy. It's not a firewall, right? You have to have different enforcements for different profiles of people. Okay, and a solution like ForcePoint really helps you do that. So and when you talk about DLP or a data loss prevention kind of a solution, there are two key aspects. One is content and second is context, right? It's not only important to look at what is the content in question, it's also important to look at the context. I'll give you an example. A recruiter in the HR division has to deal with resumes, right? Has to send out offer letters, has to kind of negotiate salaries, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of sensitive information back and forth which your recruiter does in your HR organization, right? But if the same thing is being done by, say, your IT technical team or somebody from, say, R&D, okay, that's when the alarm should ring high. So what we actually offer you is not only the content based on which you can actually apply policies, it's actually also the context. So a human resource employee sending personal data over Dropbox through the web channel is a definite block, because Dropbox is not allowed as an application inside your organization. But if the same HR personnel is sending personal data to an authorized business partner over email, which is an authorized channel, okay, encrypt that data. Allow, but encrypt that data. Now I'm sure this particular flow must have given you a clarity as to how flexible the system is, that you can actually configure different kind of controls based on the content and context. So I can give you more examples, but in the interest of time, let's go ahead. Now the next section is the most interesting section, where I speak about ForcePoint'S differentiators with respect to our competition. Okay, because I'm addressing a huge community of financial institutions, I'm sure check truncation, KYC, these are the kind of processes that you are actually worried about when you talk about data loss. There's a lot of PII information that you churn out. There's a lot of sensitive business transactions that carry out in terms of images, right? For example, if there's a truncated check, if there's an image, it becomes very necessary for you to ensure that that kind of content is protected. OCR is the answer for that. OCR literally stands for optical character recognition, where what we can do is we can extract text out of an image and tell you that, hey, you know, this particular image had this kind of sensitive content and you should be taking, this kind of action on that. So I'm sure, you know, a lot of you must be using this application called Camcard, where if I, you know, share my business card with you, you take a snapshot and it gets converted into a contact, right? It's the same technology that we use here, but for a, you know, very important purpose of data loss prevention. The second thing is drip detection. Now, this term called drip, I'm sure, you know, you understand that if you open a tap like fully, you know, there's a lot of waste of water that you do. But if you want to ensure that, you know, you control that flow of water, you're going to you know, unscrew the tap and ensure that the water flows only drip by drip. How does it relate to the cybersecurity world or the information security world? Some users, as we saw, became very smart. They kind of understood that a solution like DLP was monitoring them. Okay, so what they did is that the Indian mentality again is to try to circumvent the system, try to bypass the system, right? In our you know, North India jugaad, we actually call it jugaad, right? So you know, people used to, you know, employ very innovative methods to work around the system. And what they did is that they, instead of sending a bulk of data outside, they broke the data into smaller chunks and sent data slowly, right? So what ForcePoint DLP really does here is that it kind of starts accumulating your slower leakages into a single incident and tell you that, hey, the pattern of this user is that he is breaking down the data and slowly leaking out data using various channels. So we can actually you know, optimize your incident operations to such an extent that you don't have to look at hundreds of events. It actually culminates into a single incident and then, you know, gets raised. The third very important you know, functionality that we have is called email based incident workflow. This is essentially very important because when you talk about DLP, it's one thing that you detect, but what do you do after you detect an incident is what defines the efficiency of your data loss prevention. So what email based incident workflow does is that it kind of creates an automated workflow where the custodian of that data or somebody in authority can, you know, take action on the attempted data loss you know, which an employee does. So let's take an example. If I am trying to send out some sensitive data on email, it gets quarantined or gets held up in a temporary place and a notification goes to an authority which understands the sensitivity of that particular content, and with a click of a button that authority can take a decision whether to allow that transaction or block that transaction there and there, right? So you kind of automate your incident management workflow to a very high extent. And secondly, it also helps you to decentralize accountability of incident management. The entire accountability of looking at incidents, managing incidents, responding to incidents does not fall on cybersecurity. It then falls on business, right? Which actually helps you a lot, saying that, hey, the business is responsible for the data, let them take action on that particular data. The next one is fingerprinting and specifically on endpoints, where I'm sure fingerprinting is a technology that you're aware about, that I take a hash of a document and then you know, if that particular document is being sent out, even when I'm roaming on a laptop, I should be able to protect it. So this is a unique functionality that we have which our competition does not do today. The next one is removable media encryption, where if you try to send out data on a USB drive, typically what happens is today enterprises like yours, you either allow a USB access or disallow USB access. In 99% of the cases what we've seen is USB is blocked, and that's the reason why a lot of help desk calls, you're burdened with a lot of help desk calls that, hey, I have a sales guy roaming, you know, somewhere and he needs to copy a presentation out very urgently. So you give an exception to that person that, okay, for that sales guy, the USB is allowed. And then you forget about it, which means that there is a potential vulnerability that you have created in the system. What we are actually trying to tell you is that you can very confidently now give USB access to your employees, and also ensure that your data does not get transferred to USB in an unsecure format. How do we do it? With removable media encryption, where any content moving to the USB will be automatically encrypted, right? And then there are two options where only if the recipient has a DLP agent he can decrypt the data back, or there's a portable encryption where you have to enter a password and you don't need an agent to gain the access of that particular data. So imagine, I'm sure because you're from the finance industry, there's a lot of reconciliation data that you have to send to RBI or other regulators on a regular basis, and USB is used very widely in that particular medium. We've seen banks, our customers, using this particular functionality for that particular use case as well. Application awareness, I'm sure most of you are aware that there are a lot of applications available on endpoints today, from which you can send out data, for example, say Box, Dropbox, even collaboration tools like say WebEx or Zoom. They allow you to transfer files and data. So how do you control or monitor data loss from these applications? That's also something that we support. And as I was mentioning, because we are focusing more on behavior right now, there are a lot of behavior specific policies. For example, say if there's a disgruntled employee, or say indicators of compromise that we see, you can take actions based on them. And of course, there's a lot of detailed forensics reporting that we give. This is specifically very interesting, where current DLP solutions today, it actually also bombards you with a lot of DLP incidents. What if I tell you that I give you a prioritized dashboard that you'll have to focus only on the riskiest users in your organization and not be bombarded with thousands and lakhs of security DLP incidents. That's where IRR comes in, where we use Bayesian algorithms to kind of prioritize who are the riskiest users and help you focus only your energies only on the riskiest users. So this is the table that I've created, where I compare my solution with my nearest competitor, which is Symantec, and these are some of the key value adds that I have against them. Say for example, you want to move to Office 365 today from your on-premise email DLP. I'll help you do it at no cost, versus a Symantec, which will actually charge you exorbitantly to move from an on-premise DLP to an Office 365 DLP situation. So if you want this particular data for your internal comparisons, and if you're doing an evaluation, let me know. This is a handy thing that I can send it out to you anytime, right? So I'm not too sure how we are doing with time, Ajay. I just have like 10 minutes to go. Is that okay? 10 minutes, okay, good. So this is specifically for the DLP operations team, that how do we really review risky incidents? What do we do with these specific incidents that we get from data loss prevention? So ForcePoint DLP is the first DLP in the market which has an inbuilt security analytics which comes bundled with the solution, where we say that incidents are now clustered into cases. Okay, so which means that if Herschel Doshi's trend has been he's been a serial violator, okay, then my name will be right at the top as the riskiest user, and the moment you click on my widget, you get to see all my incidents in a single window, right? So clustering this the trend of a specific user based on various parameters, based on the sensitivity of the content that he is sent, based on the time of the day when the violation has occurred, yeah, and comparison with his peers, so on and so forth. We kind of give you this prioritized dashboard into this particular solution, and with that key risk indicators are identified very easily, and we give you incident cards to provide key information in terms of who that user is, what are the kind of incidents that he's done over a period of time, so on and so forth. Yeah, and you can kind of extract any information of that particular user from Active Directory or any other user source that you have in your organization. And reviewing those incidents then become very easy with a single view of risk. Yeah, so that's what we have as far as how do you manage risky incidents. And then one of the key questions which CISOs also have is that, is it easy to approve exceptions? Like, for example, if I have to ensure that a particular email ID in my organization is allowed to send sensitive information, how do I approve, how do I keep track of what's happening, so on and so forth, right? So what we really help you do is kind of build an organization wide workflow of how your incidents are currently managed, which includes business teams like, say, line of business manager, risk and compliance team, privacy officer, legal. The reason why we say this is because their involvement in data loss prevention also has to be ensured, because when you talk about litigation or you talk about investigation, these are the guys who will help you to define the process. And that is where the email based workflow also kind of helps, which I spoke about earlier, that when you send a copy to the line manager, you can copy legal as well, so that they also come to know that there's something like this which has happened. How do I extend DLP policies into enterprise cloud applications? This is also a question that we get very often. So as I was mentioning, we already have our cloud integration in place, and when Ashwini speaks about Gatsby, you will get to know more. But natively DLP also integrates with, say, famous cloud applications like, say, Office 365 or OneDrive for Business. And one of the use cases we'd like to mention here is that if a roaming user is trying to upload a file on, say, OneDrive, okay, and that actually goes to our AP data or our DLP server for inspection, and once we see that it's actually a sensitive file, we can ensure that it gets deleted and the action gets audited. Okay, so those kind of things can also be done as far as cloud integration is concerned, and you can configure all these in the DLP solution. Now with Gatsby coming in, we can ensure that the DLP policies can be put into the Gatsby component and ensure that there's a seamless policy migration between DLP and Gatsby. So the last couple of minutes I'm going to speak about a new innovation that we've done in DLP called the dynamic data protection. What it really does is that, based on the risk score of the user, it helps you change the level of enforcements without having to touch the policy. Okay, so we use behavioral analytics to achieve this particular functionality and ensure that irrespective of the risk of the user, you can be very well ensured that you're protected and you allow only contextual enforcements to be applied. So for example, let me give you that on risk level 1 you want to do only audit and forensics, on risk level 2 you do want to do audit only, on risk level 3 you want to do audit and notify, and risk level 4 you want to start dropping email attachments, and at risk level 5 you want to start blocking everything. So as the risk level of the user increases, you can start ensuring that your enforcements are becoming more and more stringent, right? So that's the innovation that we've done as dynamic data protection. So the objective is to understand intent better, and as I said, we are moving away from this pure cyber risk to business risk. So for example, if a employee tries to print credit card numbers and your DLP solution blocks it, then he tries to copy to the USB, and your DLP solution blocks it, but then he again tries to upload it onto a Google Drive. So he's trying different things with the same content, okay, and he tries to ensure that he bypasses the system. So with every attempt he does, his risk score increases, and we ensure that by the time he reaches a very high score, we start blocking all his activities. So it's all about ensuring that based on the risk level of the user, you kind of change his risk policy. So guys, that's all I had from my side. If there are any questions, what we can do is, I'm actually running out of time. I can take it up offline, or we can have some Q&A at the end of this particular evening. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much. I've been Herschel Doshi.
So it was a very informative session that Herschel covered, and I hope everyone got to know something about DLP, something new about DLP, let me say in this way. You guys are into BFSI or other enterprises, so I'm very sure that you will be knowing about data loss prevention, right? So to begin with, my first question that I wanted to ask is, how much of the audience right now here are going to adapt to cloud or already using cloud? Any sort of cloud applications or Office 365 or any sort of SaaS based applications. Do we have that in the enterprises? You are? Okay, I can see 3. You have 4, 5. Okay, so can you name which one you are using? What's the cloud application? Is the private application that you, I'm sorry? Simla. Okay, good. Zimbra. Okay, Zimbra. Okay, good. Which one are you using, sir? Office 365. Great. And you at the back? Okay. So you have a cloud presence, right? So many of you have. And for rest of the people, are you planning or you are targeting to go to cloud? Okay. Now, one of the main reasons why I see people moving on to cloud is because they want to go into a leaner organization structure, right? So by now you have all data centers, you have everything, okay? Now you want to go into a position where your downtime is less, where you go ahead and if there is a downtime onto the service provider, so they will be able to provide you a good SLA. Say for example, most of the cloud providers provide like 99.90% of SLA, so which is very good. And you do not have to actually shift between the loads and everything, right? So now with cloud adoption, there are certain risks that comes to the organizations, right? So how confident are we to adapt to the cloud? So to all the people I have worked with, I have presented this, we have customers, when we started interacting with them, so they basically were a bit like, okay, I will adapt to the cloud, but at the same time, is it safe for me to adapt to the cloud? Okay, when I say, is it safe for me, it means that when I'm moving to cloud, say for example, someone said Office 365, you said Zimbra, okay, and there is many more private applications, okay. So what happens with these cloud applications is that your data is everywhere. It can be accessed from any device, right? And you can actually do data exfiltration very easily. So for example, if I have Office 365 OneDrive and I want to download some confidential file, I can do that, right? And then share it via WhatsApp, all right? So it's very risky because once it's on your laptop or in your mobile phone, which is not intended as the correct device for that business use, so you fail to actually safeguard your own data, right? So that's why Gatsby came into picture, okay? So now, how does a Gatsby helps you? Okay, so we are going to talk about Gatsby as a technology. It's not very specific to ForcePoint, but then later on, I'm going to show you a brief demo about how a Gatsby can help you, how my Gatsby, ForcePoint Gatsby looks like. So Gatsby is an add-on module, okay, which sits in between your users, okay, which can be roaming anywhere, and your applications. Now these cloud applications can be anything. They can be your on-premise applications on your local servers, but available on the public. It's available for a public use. Like it's an internet-faced application, right? But it's there on the local server. Or it can be any SaaS-based application, right? So Gatsby will be able to protect your data and help you to make a balance in between what data needs to go out, what needs to reside, who needs to access it, when needs to access it, and where it needs to be accessed. Okay, so it's covering all the three modules: who, what, why, when. Okay, now moving on to the cloud platform that we are talking about. Now, our cloud is basically structured into three different parts. It's PaaS, SaaS, and IaaS, right? So everyone knows about it. So, and with all these infrastructures, okay, we can access from mobile devices, we can access it from the corporate parameters and all that. But what we are lacking right now is visibility on what these users are actually doing. What is the data transaction that's happening with these applications and these devices? Are we meeting the compliance standards? Right? Maybe you have to be compliant with GDPR. Maybe you have to be compliant with Pci Dss, or for that example, ISO, right? So are you compliant? Is your data which is moving or at rest, is that compliant? Or what are the threat protections that my users can get? Say for example, when I talk about threat protection, I talk about brute force. I talk about anomalies. I talk about someone trying to infiltrate into your data. So you guys might have heard about Deloitte hack, right? How many of you heard about it? It was an Office 365 hack. Not many? Okay. So Deloitte's Office 365 was hacked. Okay. And they took out all the information, all the critical information of the users, okay, and their customers, because they serve many big organizations. So they took out that data and sold it onto the internet. And the reason for that hack was that their Office 365 was not protected by something called as Gatsby, right? And they are right now in the implementation phase of Gatsby. Now, when it comes to Gatsby, all these devices will go through the Gatsby cloud and provide you visibility, data protection, compliance, and threat protection for any of your cloud platforms. So when I say any cloud platforms, it's any of these, be it a PaaS, SaaS, or IaaS, be it any private application, whatever you are hosting. If you are a financial, so we have many financial customers in India, right? They host these applications on their own servers and then, make it public. Maybe there is an insurance company, okay, and they have those applications which only their insurance agents use, right? So they have made it public, but storing the data internally. So any kind of data, any application, any action, there's FORCEPOINT for you. Now, when we talk about Gatsby, we also talk about those applications which is not known to you and is being used in your organization, right? So, like Sir readily mentioned, that he's aware that Zimbra is in use. They are aware about some Office 365. He may be aware about any other SaaS application. Are you very much confident that your users are only using these cloud applications? There is no other cloud application in use? Are you confident? Any one of you? You are confident? Do you have any visibility on that? If they are using any other cloud application? Okay. So my friend who is using Office 365, you have any awareness on that? If those users are using any other cloud-based applications? No? So that's a blind spot, right? So with Gatsby, what happens is that when you go ahead with the Gatsby solution, you can have a visibility on shadow IT. So shadow IT is something which IT people are not aware about, but something is running at the back end. So we run this shadow IT on our own company, and we are surprised to find our users in ForcePoint were using like 14,000 shadow IT applications. We're very surprised, right? So we were able to identify okay, this thing is not working. Okay. Okay, let's take. So we were able to identify the risky apps, and once we identified the risky apps, we were able to prevent the risky usage, right? Risky usage by those applications. Like, say for an example, you have an application that's like someone talked about Facebook hack, right? Facebook. So actually it was not a hack, it was a data privacy that was, actually mismatched with any company's data privacy laws. So far, India doesn't have a data privacy law, but something is in build up and it may come up, right? We just last week listened about data privacy bill coming up. So now, when people are using Facebook, okay, why the data privacy law came into picture was because they didn't took consent from a user saying that I will post your pictures onto the internet and it's available to anyone who has a Facebook account. That's why it came into picture, right? So what if you have a solution such as a Gatsby which will be able to tell you, okay, this data which is posted onto the internet is posting the data automatically, or it's breaking any compliance standards, or it's auditing your user behavior. So that's why cloud app Gatsby will be able to provide you. So in short, you will get a visibility, you will be able to identify users, applications, and prevent the risky usage of all it. Now there are many use cases for sanctioned apps. Sanctioned apps are those which you guys are aware about is in use in my organization, right? So now since you are aware about which application is it, so first point for me is to prevent the cyber threat for that particular application. Cyber threat is no one from the outsider should come in and log in. No one should be able to access the data from high risky applications and all, right? Then helping you to prevent the data leakage pointers. It can be anything, data in motion, data at rest, any data leakage prevention that you just heard from Herschel will be able to protect against that. Then third one is controlling external file sharing, which is very important for some SaaS based applications like Office 365. So what happens is that I brought Office 365 because I wanted mobility, right? I wanted my users to be able to access that data anywhere in the world. But what I didn't wanted was that this data to be shared with some competition, or I didn't wanted this data to be shared with someone who is not the right recipient, right? So with Gatsby, you can have a policy in picture where if any data which is shared externally, you will be able to protect it. Now one thing that comes to mind, I think maybe he has that question that I am able to achieve this all from Office 365 itself, right? That's very common, and we'll address that concern. Now we'll go to point number 5 first and then to 6. Okay. So monitoring all user activities, that's something that we do, and what we believe in. How ForcePoint is very different in that is, we say that Office 365 email or any SaaS application, I'm taking an example of Office 365 just because it's very common. Okay. Email is structured to send email, receive email, forward email, attach the email, right? These are the actions you do. If you take a case of OneDrive or data at stressed, so you upload, download, right? You modify, view, edit, all these type of data, right? So ForcePoint Gatsby is the only solution who helps you to protect actions based on the applications. Rest all the vendors who are selling Gatsby, they have a structure of the actions and you can monitor them all. So they do not have application specific actions, which only ForcePoint has. Now these last 2 points. So I'll come to point number 4 at the last, but I will first go with managing Byod. That's why I asked my friend that point number 3 we will discuss later. So managing Byod. So what's the pain point with using of any SaaS application, any IaaS or PaaS? What's the pain point? The pain point is that you do not know who is accessing the data from which device, and you really want to control that point. You want to say that, okay, from office provided machine, you should be able to access this data. When it comes from any other device, it should be readily blocked, right? That's what you want to achieve. So what ForcePoint do, it goes one step ahead. We say that security is 0 if it's not enablement of users. Do you agree with this point? Do you agree that if you put a security in place but disable your users or their productivity is hampered, it's like no security? How much of you agree with this point? You agree? Great. Everyone? Can I have a nod? Really? You don't believe this? Right, okay. So I get enough nods to proceed further. So yes. So now what we say, that you enable your users, that's our motive. That's ForcePoint's Gatsby or all solutions motive. That go ahead and adapt to cloud, adapt to sharing, enable your users, but stay confident. That's what we say. Now, what we say to the people is that, okay, say for example, there is Ajay. Okay, Ajay was the guy who came in and gave in the the starting pitch. So Ajay, I go to Ajay, I tell him, Ajay, I am an admin. Okay, now apart from corporate laptop, which all machine do you want to access the application from? So he'll say, okay, I have an iPhone. I said, okay. He said that apart from that, I have my wife's iPad. I said, okay. He said, okay, I have a laptop at home, which usually my children used to play on. Okay. So I said, okay, these three devices, anything else? He said, no. I again reconfirm. I say to him, okay, if I give you access from these three machines, you are enabled as a user? You will be able to work? He said, yes. So what we do differently is that we tell these users, I tell to Ajay that, okay, now from office laptop, and you can do a device management from 3 other machines. You have this device management capability, right? Now, if he tries to log in from office laptop, it will be seamless. If he tries to log in from these 3 devices, it will be seamless. But if he tries to log in from a cyber cafe or a friend's machine, he'll be blocked. His access will be blocked. Or whatever kind of control you want. Maybe you want that he should be able to log in but not download or view the stuff. That can also be possible. Now, what is the pain point that we addressed here? The pain point that we addressed is that data theft or security is only possible when you put this laptop into some concrete. Okay, if you are connected anyway to internet, you are at risk, right? So, but we minimize the parameter of risk here. Now, so far Ajay's account was accessible from any device. Now we made it only to 4, right? This we reduce. Now the parameter is only these 4 devices. It's not connected from external world now. So this is very important thing that we address. Now my favorite topic, point number 4. And after this, we'll directly move on to showing you demo of how a FORCEPOINT Gatsby looks like. Now managing admins and privileged users. This is a very favorite thing, because I don't know if you are already in talks, or someone comes to you, or Ajay came, Herschel came, you go to any other events, everyone talks about we will be protecting your users, right? Am I right at this point? Everyone says that we will protect your users. So does this mean by default you are trusting your admins? Does this mean that an Office 365 admin who can actually go ahead and transfer the mailboxes? So if I know that Ajay lives in Bangalore and it takes him 3 hours from office to reach to home. In these 3 hours, I can actually assign his mailbox to myself, see all the confidential data and reassign it back. Or I put an auto forward rule on Ajay's email. So I am an admin, I can do all these malicious things. Or I do a malicious search. I know Ajay is going to receive a 1 million PO and I wanted to see from which partner he is getting it, right? So I can search his email box, right? You agree with me on Office 365? And this is, believe me, this is almost similar to all the applications. Private, SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, anything. It's all true for all the applications. Now what ForcePoint comes with, very unique with us, we say that, okay, it's good to protect the users, but what about the admins? We have predefined policies to help you to manage and control your admins. So if you have a ForcePoint Gatsby, you have Office 365, you have any other cloud-based solution, Zimbra or anything, and you want that your admins should not be able to transfer the mailboxes, give excessive access, set up auto forwarding rules, okay, so you can do that all. Now this is some different modes of deployment, okay, that we do, like API. That's the first one. It's very straightforward. It's like 2 clouds talking to each other. You're giving a permission to one cloud to talk to ForcePoint Gatsby cloud. Second is SSO and reverse proxy. Only with few Gatsby vendors this option is there. And why it's very useful for organizations is that you guys do not need to deploy another agent onto your machines. That's very simple. How many agents you are going to put on your machines, right? You will put n number of DLP agent, antivirus agent, this agent, that, proxy agent, everything, right? But with reverse proxy mode, you do not need to put agents. It will be very transparent. And then lastly, yes, we do have an option of endpoint agents as well, because some people want that. So we have that option as well. So I'll be shifting now to show you a live demo of how ForcePoint Gatsby actually looks like, okay? Okay, So I will have some hard time to browse because so I will be standing from here, okay, but I am audible and visible to everyone, I hope. Okay, so first of all, like Herschel also mentioned, we want, as a corporate, our policy is to minimize the administrative workload. We do not want, once you implement a solution and then you have to hire 2 different or 3 different people just to work on the solution. It doesn't justify the cost that you are putting in for that solution, right? So the first thing that you see at the top, the number 9, okay, so it shows the total number of users here, okay, then it shows number 9, which states that how many users are at risk at that particular point. And then we are able to differentiate how many of them are non-admins or admins, okay. And since you see here, I have selected all assets, right? So, okay, it's a bit tough, but I will manage. So you can add any number of assets. That's what I wanted to say. You can add n number of assets. You can add custom, GitHub, ServiceNow, whatever you can think about. Just tell me that application and I will be able to support you with that. Okay. Now, okay, here we go. Now we bifurcate further which application. If you have selected all assets, we tell you which application is getting most hits. Then I tell you who are the top 2 or 3 risky users. So you do not need to concentrate on all those 9 users also, right? You have to just concentrate on these 2 users. And the best part, we tell you entire incident story. So like you see this one, I see something 15,000 incidents happened on today, okay? But what I am telling you to look at is just one incident. So now understand the workload of an admin who had to actually look through 15,000 different incidents and to find out which one is the risky. And that too, when admins look through 15,000 incidents, it's upon his logic what he thinks is malicious, not malicious, because it's a human interactive story, right? So I will decide maybe some incident that I think is malicious, Vivek may not think it's malicious, right? So I again reduced your workload here, and we can also tell you live from where the traffic is coming for that particular application, okay? Now let me move to the second tab. Now this is something that I was talking to you about, cloud app discovery, shadow IT discovery. Let's correlate what it is. So you see, I run this shadow IT discovery on very big company. I would not like to name them, okay? But it's like more than 200,000 users, okay, 2 lakh users like. So we found out for 1 week of report that we pulled in, we found out in 1 week he had like 1400 approximately applications that were in use, and it was being used by 16,000 distinctive users. And I tell you how much total volume of data is. That's all that you can get from firewall as well. If you are using Palo Alto, FortiGate, Checkpoint, you get all this data. So that's not my concentration point as well. My concentration point is this: what is the overall risk of your organization? And out of these, how many are risky apps? Okay. And if you want to go further and you want to see why I have marked them risky, right, you can find out that as well by clicking here on adjust risk weights. You can see what is the risk weight that I have given to these applications and modify them according to your need. And I provide you complete analytics like these 1400 applications, whether they are IT based or they are marketing, which departments are using, and what's the total volume of data that's going out, and also tell you the trends. Okay, when I say trends mean, okay, which day or which time of the day or which days mostly these applications are getting accessed. Okay, this is another very unique thing with us. Now let's come to, I'm taking an example of Office 365, guys. The reason being that I think that what I have seen is that many people are moving to Office 365 like anything. Microsoft has this strategy to convert all its Exchange on-prem customers to Office 365. Now I see government PSUs, governments also going to this. We have a customer like Bank of Baroda, they have Office 365. We have another customer, so I don't have NDA with them, so I cannot name them. But that's also a very big bank in India. They're moving to Office 365. So they started moving right now, and they have already bought our solution. That's the reason why I gave you an example in the beginning, that they wanted to move, but they were very, they said they were very conservative. They were saying that, okay, if we move to cloud, what will happen to my data? I have balance sheet, I have SOX, I have this and that. So I said, okay, let's run a POC. So we ran a POC. We kept this alive in their environment for 2 months. We helped them to mitigate those risks. Okay, so first thing, what I help you is that data, classification. I tell you entire data, what is at rest. Is it a PCI, PII, IT related data? Who is actually owning this sensitive data? Okay. And now this is very important. So you know that this data can be stored because you purchased Office 365 because you wanted that data to be there. Now, what is serious for you is that this data being shared with someone else. So I am able to help you to find out whose that data is shared with. Now, here you see, I found out that guy, okay, he's sharing this data. I tell you the email address, I tell you with whom it is being shared, and like you see, what's the error message that I'm getting? That anyone who has the link of this file is not required actually to authenticate to access this file. So I actually had many incidents like this which we captured for that PSU bank. And then they said, okay, don't take it out from my network, place it there, I will extend the license. And then they bought us, and then they started implementing Office 365. And okay, it's here. Like many incidents like this which happened. Okay. Now the next part of it is detailed file analytics. Okay, you do not want to just see what that file is, but wanted to see what file type, what compliance, where from, how it is, what location, what IP address. We give you complete elementary of that. Okay, I will run quickly, but this is very important for you. This page is very important for you if you have adapted Office 365 or going to any SaaS based application and you wanted to really stay compliant. So now you see I have here like Pci Dss. This has nothing to do with today's audience, but in general I just put it up. There are many predefined templates, okay, like you can select from them, okay. But what I am able to tell you that if you want to stay compliant with Pci Dss, these are the things which are missing out in your organization. So no longer you need an auditor to tell you that Office 365 doesn't have a remember password disabled. It doesn't have multi-factor authentication enabled if you want to stay compliant with PCI. So similarly, your workload is lessened. We give you predefined templates, and if you want to now push this, to your IT based or to your users, you just need to click on create task and it is pushed. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. So many of you who may like to go ahead with this solution, you can actually see this. And like I said, there are many compliance here, okay. So you can select from any one of them and you can customize them as well. So by clicking on any of these parameters here. So now here is my audit and protect tab. So this is one dashboard. So now you saw in this overall demo that everything is very human readable, right? So you do not need to actually surface across all these logs and listen and trigger and then filter or anything. No. So you want to see how many brute forces happened? That's there. You want to see how many account takeovers happened? It's there. How many malicious insiders? It's there. So there are different parameters to trigger this. And you have all the control as an admin to modify or add to those things. Now you can see top risky. If you see at the bottom here, it shows you how many Tor networks, how many malicious IPs, how many anonymous proxies someone has tried to log in, and here you get more detailed, what I call is my navigation pane. That's what I call it. So what matters to me is who are my malicious compromised insiders and who are the account takeover people. So I can do it in this way. Then these are more detailed incidents. If you want to see more detail, you can. And then we have real-time dashboards, okay, for your organization, okay. And if you want to see more granular dashboards, okay, like you want to see more granularity in those dashboard, like that's very number centric. You wanted to see what's actually triggering this, you can just click on this number and you will have this thing in there. Now similarly, service provider audit logs, the people who are using Office 365, they will be aware what I'm talking here, right? Service provider audit logs, that's where you see. But those logs, if you are going to see in future, or if you are going to see it now, okay, those who are using, is just a jumble. You will not be able to see anything out of it, not able to get anything. But see how beautiful this thing looks like. And if you want to see those incidents which are on service provider audit logs, and you see it here, it's like how it is. And you can create n number of policies, okay. You can create as many as custom policies that you want. We do not have any restrictions. Now, like I was telling about, if you want someone to be able to access only from internal networks, you just need one checkboxes. Okay, you want to manage endpoints, you can do it with one checkbox. Now very important thing, how I again differentiate. So if someone tells me that I have to manage Office 365, for me it's one application. Be it your OneDrive, SharePoint, Exchange Online, anything, is just one. Okay, so they are showing me the play cards saying that the time is done, but let me quickly show you, couple of things. Like I mentioned to you guys, that it's all something that you can adjust it from here, okay, whatever you want, and you can actually add as many as applications you want, okay. So there is no hard limit. And by the way, one last thing, so you wanted multi-factor authentication. I think many of you might have invested into that, right? MFA, OTP things, okay. With ForcePoint Gatsby, that comes as a default license. You don't need to pay us anything. We give it to you for free, or SMS servers for free, or mail gateways, mail servers for free. Only thing that you have to pay is for this, that too not me, that too Vivek. So he may come up and ask. And then again, one more thing for administrators. Every time they need a new tool, new endpoint build come in, you run to, like to ForcePoint support or semantic support or any OEM support, and you ask them, okay, there is new build, please give me this build. And with us, you don't need to do that. You have everything here. Any new tool will be published here. You just need to click on download and download it from here. And lastly, this is my last point, okay. So like I told you, managing the unmanaged, this is very important, okay. Now with one click, you can manage any of the devices, okay. The only thing that you have to do is to just click on enroll, okay. And then once it's enrolled and you want to make it unmanaged again with one click, and it becomes unmanaged. Now I will end up just with one thing. So why this use case is very important for all the corporates, Office 365, Zimbra, any other SaaS application that you guys are using. So for example, there comes a situation where you didn't had access, like Ajay didn't have access to 4 devices which I already provisioned him, right? So should I disable him as a user? No. Like I said, we believe in enabling these users, right? So he will reach to his admin will give an web link, he will register himself, okay, from whatever device he wants. That device will show up here, and he as an admin will move that in managed Byod device category. He will be able to access, one click it moves back to unmanaged. So this is just 2 clicks, you can make a device managed and unmanaged. So that's it from my end. I will pass on to Ajay, and I hope this session was informative for you all, for those who wanted to move to cloud. Thank you.
Okay, thanks to Herschel, thanks to Ashwini. You have been a very nice audience. Usually, my professor in college used to say, when there are no questions, either you have understood everything or you are in Swapna Loka and no questions. So if I have to take a choice between these two, it sounds more like Swapna Loka. You know what is Swapna Loka, right? I hope I'm talking the right Malayalam word. Dreamland. So welcome back. Wake up. Good morning. Good morning. No? No questions. Yenda idu cheta. Korchu Malayalam mari anakku. You asking no questions, I'll start talking in Malayalam. Assuming that only Malayalam will ask questions. Kerala is such a vocal place. Look at your politics. So vocal you people are. We sit in Bangalore, we look at Kerala, we are so impressed. Every citizen should be like, so involved. But questions you're not asking. So please ask questions, right? So we have a scheme. If you ask good questions, 10% discount. We'll give you a voucher right away. Or we can make one more scheme. Person who asks questions will give extra 130 ml. 90 ml extra. And Amanda Brandy Putti. It's a nice song. Huh? Okay, let's come back to technology. SD-WAN, software defined wide area network. People are asking me to stop. I didn't even start. So SD-WAN software. Before that, show of hands. How many of you have multiple branches? Multiple branches that you need to connect. Wonderful. So almost all of us here. So this technology helps you to connect. It has traditionally been a networking technology. So if you are wondering why a security guy is talking about networking, we will try to figure out why it is so. One of the primary reasons why SD-WAN is no longer a networking technology and it's slowly becoming a security technology is because of cloud applications. Right? The first 2 points, O365, 91% adoption. Many people have moved to cloud. I've met some of you, you're on the path to move or you are already moving. If not O365, you have many other applications which are going to cloud. So when you're moving to cloud, what is happening is, let me use this. So, oh shit. So this is your current infrastructure, right? So you have a head office. This is your head office, then you have branches and internet and your email or cloud infrastructure. So if somebody sitting here needs to send a mail, it essentially uses the MPLS network, goes to head office, goes to internet, goes to cloud and comes back in the same way, right? So you're essentially using an MPLS infrastructure to carry cloud traffic from your spoke, which is your branch, to your hub and then take it to internet. Right? So this is one of the use cases or this is one of the requirements why SD-WAN is slowly moving from networking to a security. So let's look at the other reasons. The other reasons is of course compliance. Today most of the companies use something like a PGP encryption between their branches to head office. They use an MPLS network. Is it very safe? Of course, PGP is pretty good privacy. It has to be safe, but it does not adhere to the today's security needs. Today we have things like BYOD. Today we have things like IoT. So when these things are coming into play, there is a lot of compliance requirement. And today, many people want to have the same level of security that you have in your head office, you want to have in your branch office. The level of security has to be the same. That is one of the requirements of people. One, of course, cloud application. Second is how can I have more and more security. The third point is consolidation is happening. Consolidation is happening between SD-WAN, web and cloud. So today's SD-WAN solution, the FORCEPOINT SD-WAN solution replaces 4 technologies for you. At your branch, you don't need a router. At the branch, you don't need a firewall. You don't need an IPS. You don't need an SD-WAN solution. And if it is a small room like this, you don't even need a Wi-Fi access point. This technology gives all these bundled into one. Right? So that is very nice. So Gartner, what does Gartner say? Gartner says that SD-WAN solution should replace WAN routers. You should not have an edge router in your branches. FORCEPOINT does that. Gartner says multiple WAN connections. One appliance should be able to handle multiple WAN connections. It could be MPLS, it could be ISP1, it could be ISP2. So one box, you should be able to handle multiple active ISP connections. We can do that. Simplify WAN management and orchestration. Today, one of the biggest problems in running a huge network is how do you manage? Many a times you are trying to do a remote admin. If you have 200 branches, doing remote admins to push policies is not, even if you have a tool, it is not very easy. With ForcePoint, we are bringing in what is called as an installation cloud. So this is your head office, you have an installation cloud and you have your 200 branches here. The installation cloud makes the connections for you. There is no remote login, there is no remote admin. So by having this installation cloud, you can push hundreds of policies to all your 200 branches in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. The time you make to make Maggi noodles, you could have configured your entire network. It doesn't take hours. Today it takes hours to do. And the last, and one of these interesting features, the last point here is setting up VPNs. Setting up VPNs is a very complex process in today's environment. In an MPLS or in a multi-branch location, if you have to do VPN, sitting in Kerala, you want to do VPN between your Chandigarh branch and your Delhi branch, it's a nightmare. You need to have CCNA, highly qualified people. You need to do that. That has been simplified in our technology. You can do a drag and drop VPN. Sitting here in the management console, you drag Delhi, drop into the VPN box, drag Chandigarh, put it into VPN. There's a plus button. You click the plus button, VPN is created. In fact, my VP of engineering says that anybody who can download an app and run on a smartphone, which includes my mother, can create a VPN into the StoneSoft management console. Creation of VPN is so very easy, right? So if you ask me, one difference between the solutions is the ease of life, the ease in which you can operate this solution. VPNs creation easy, pushing policies easy, no need to travel. We offer what is called as zero-touch deployment. Say you have a location, say let us say assume in Lakshadweep. ForcePoint factory will ship an appliance through our distributors. iValue will directly take the appliance and deliver it and courier it to Lakshadweep. In Lakshadweep, somebody there has to collect electricity and connect internet. They shouldn't exchange these two. If they put the right thing in the right interface, boom, it starts working. The first IP address will be pushed from here. 100% configuration happens remotely. That's called zero-touch deployment. No need to travel. You can go to Lakshadweep for a holiday. For those of you not married, for honeymoon also. For those of you married, second honeymoon you can go. Third honeymoon you shouldn't go. Go to a different place. Come to Ooty. It's my hometown. Okay. So this is the infrastructure we saw. This is the, your MPLS. You can move that too. So now all your branches, so this is your Lakshadweep, this is Chandigarh, this is Delhi. All the branches are now directly on the internet. The box appliance understands application aware routing. That means person sitting in Lakshadweep or say Chandigarh, let us take. So now this person has to send email to O365. It will go directly to internet. Now he has to send ERP traffic or core banking traffic to data center. It will use a VPN and it will come to the head office. So depending on the application goes directly to internet using ISP1, or this application goes to internet using ISP2, this application goes to head office using ISP. That intelligence is there on the box. It can support 3 ISPs or 2 ISPs and 1 MPLS player. So 3 WAN connections, 1 box supports active application routing with no need of any static IP. It can work on a dynamic IP. And everything is managed by the StoneSoft management console, the security management console. I will show that to you, some of our customers. So we have another very interesting feature called as link aggregation. So in this example, there is, the office has 3 WAN connections, 50 MB, 20 MB and 5 MB. Now these 3 are 3 service providers, Airtel, Jio and BSNL. Right? Now 3 ISPs are there, 3 WAN connections are there. You can use the SD-WAN appliance from ForcePoint and do link aggregation. You will get a virtual pipe of 75 Mbps. The only condition is it is a symmetric traffic. So if you have ForcePoint in your branch, you should have ForcePoint in your head office. That is the only condition. Both ends of the network, if you have ForcePoint, the same technology, then you can take three ISPs, 3 different speeds, put them together, get 1 virtual pipe. That's called as link aggregation. Then we have, support all kinds of interfaces directly onto the box. Satellite connection, cable connection, RJ11, RJ45, D9. People ask me, can you put a SIM card inside? No, we can't do that. But we support dongle. You can buy an Airtel dongle, Jio dongle, directly insert, directly get internet. There are many places where a broadband connection is not possible, but a dongle is possible. So we support up to 1 or 2 dongles depending on the model. So we support all these interfaces directly onto the box. Now you create a pipe, a virtual pipe or a direct pipe, and you can do quality of service. Quality of service, bandwidth optimization, right? You can say 25% of my traffic is dedicated to voice over IP. 25 is dedicated to video conferencing. 25 is dedicated to ERP. And 25 as admin, you can keep yourself for Facebook travel. Nobody will stop you. Good idea? Bad idea? Bad idea. Okay. Agility, you can do ISB load balancing. Multiple load balancing, 1, 2, 3, you can do ISB load balancing, link load balancing, faster provisioning, bandwidth. All these are English words. Quality of service, bandwidth optimization, wonderful feature. So if you have, again, the condition is both sides you need to have force point. If you have force point, you can do quality of service very, very beautifully. So active, direct to cloud, no external routers required. In your head office, you can cluster. Again, beautiful feature, you can cluster. Every firewall supports cluster. What is the great about our technology? Our technology allows mixed devices. So you can take model number A, model number B, model number C. Many times customers will ask me, can I do clustering with Cisco? No, we cannot do clustering with Cisco. We can do clustering only with ForcePoint boxes, but with different models. Model A of ForcePoint, model B of ForcePoint, model C of ForcePoint, running different operating systems, running different firmware, doesn't matter. You can put them together, form a cluster. What does that mean? That I can do hot swap. I can have 3 devices in a cluster. On a Monday morning, I can remove one, change it, put a new one, join back the cluster. 8.3, 8.3, 8.3 are running. I want to change it to 8.4. I pull one, make it 8.4, put it in, pull this, make 8.4, put it in, pull that fellow, put it in. Monday morning, high traffic time, I can upgrade the cluster with 0 downtime. Today, if you have to touch your cluster, you have to wait for Independence Day long weekend. Wife will keep shouting, and that you are going on office time. Holiday is crashing. But then that is a reality. If you have to change your cluster, there is complexity. But with this technology, hot swap is a unique feature. 16 nodes, no load balancers required. Management consoles, you can do DCDR, replicated, awesome features. Roadmap, most of this I have already spoken. 2019 onwards, we will be offering this whole thing as a service. Today we offer this as either as a full OPEX, a full CAPEX or part CAPEX and part OPEX. You can buy the appliance, rest of the services, software, services, maintenance, installation, all that can be given to you as a service. So we have a mixed model today. A part is CAPEX and most of it is in a month. We can do a monthly billing. We can do a quarterly billing. You get it as a CAPEX and OPEX service. And instead of, your today maybe MPLS users, you will know that your service provider is taking care of it. Tomorrow, it is your system integrator, like somebody like SNS will take care of it. They will manage the solution for you. The dashboard, the SMC can either sit in your office, they can manage it. It can sit in their office and remotely manage it. Or you can put it onto Azure and you can remotely manage it. So the management console can reside anywhere. So I think, so this is a comparison slide between SD-WAN players and security-based SD-WAN players. If you look at all those dots, we have all the SD-WAN features that any strong SD-WAN player has. In addition to that, we give you security. What a Citrix cannot do today, what a VMware cannot do is giving an NGFW, next generation firewall, next generation IPS on the box. So we can give you all of those plus security on the same box. Most of the times, most of my customers in India, most of our customers in the Europe have outsourced this to partners. Like you are a bank, you will give it to, say, your partner, your SNS, right? They will come and manage it for you. Now, once your SI is managing this for you, you want to control and see what your SI can do. You do not want to give all your control, so you need role-based admin controls. So we support role-based admin controls as one of our key security features, wherein you can determine what the SI can do, what he cannot do. You keep the control in your hand while you ask him to do the management. So some of the features, animation slides, you have two ISPs, ISP1, ISP2. If one of the link goes down, it can go automatic link failover. ISP3, if a situation is both the links fail, this clicker has a problem. In Hindi, they say, Naach na jane angan teda. I'll translate this to you after 2 drinks. My Hindi to Malayalam translation requires some whiskey as lubrication. So we have RTT method. How can you load balance different links on different servers? RTT is, what is RTT? Networking people. To answer it correctly, first drink is for you. Even I don't know, that's why I'm asking. Around time taken or something like this. The time a packet takes to hit a destination and come back is called an RTT time. We'll Google and find out what it is later on. So we support all that. So this is the quality of service. So you can take your virtual pipe, you can have a dedicated pipe for your business critical application, for voice over IP, and the lower priority can be on a different pipe. So you can choose the ISP, choose the pipe, make it a virtual pipe, all kinds of SD-WAN features built in and offered to you on a firewall. And the beauty, I did this presentation yesterday, day before in Chennai, last week in Pune. When I was in Pune, one of the customers said, time up, yeah, but very important slide. The customer said, he asked me all that and he said, what is the price of the box? You seem to be doing so many things. Then I told him the price of the box. Then he told me, Ajay, I want to give you an advice. Next time when you do this presentation, put the price as the first slide. You should begin the presentation by showing. Again, I forgot to do that. So now I will tell you the price. And how many of you want to know the price? After the drink, price increases. So this entire technology, right, what we are talking about, the entry-level box, right, the entry-level box is available at a price of 45,000 rupees. All the features that I spoke about. Model number 110. So this is my last slide. I will just quickly touch upon one slide on Nss Lab. This is the Nss Lab report. Some of your vendors might have sent you this. So this is measured on the security effectiveness of the box. How secure our firewall is. According to Nss Labs, we get 100 out of 100. 100 out of 100 into security. There are other players also pretty close by. You have no reason to look, but if you look at the last year report, you will find a big difference between us and them. We had nowhere to go because we are already hit 100. We can't offer 110% security. But other people are catching up, which is not a great news. But yeah, so there are 190 evasion techniques. So we are the only vendor to block all the evasion techniques. So if you want to know what an evasion technique is, if you want to know how to hack a firewall, YouTube is a great tool. Tor browser with few dollars, credit card, don't use your credit card, use somebody else's credit card. Over the weekend, you can become a hacker. Very easy to become a hacker. Very, very easy. Some basic tools, credit card, preferably not yours, YouTube and Tor browser. With that, any browser, any firewall can be breached, excepting for StoneSoft. So we block all the known 190 methods of evasion. So this is what the firewall contains. So at 45,000 rupees, you get this. At 45,000 rupees, you get SD-WAN, firewall, IPS, VPN, segmentation. You get anti-evasion techniques. All the 190 will be blocked. Decryption, virtual context, application proxies, and Endpoint Aware. What is Endpoint Aware? Endpoint Aware is a beautiful feature. It's called as Endpoint Aware Context. Basically, when you have your VPN client and you want to allow your VPN client to do a remote VPN. So, the guy is sitting, maybe he's sitting in, his village. From NAT, he wants to do a VPN connection to the firewall. Before you allow the VPN connection, you can check for the health of the endpoint. Is the antivirus running? If the antivirus is running, is the signature updated? If this is there, is he using the latest IE browser or is he using the vulnerable IEC? What is the operating system? Is he using the right operating system? You can check for these 7, 8, 9, 10 parameters and then allow connection. Many people ask me, is this NAC? Very similar to NAC, but for endpoint VPN. Why are we doing this? How many of you heard of the target hack? Nobody? Okay, so Target was this huge retailer which was hacked with a VPN. They had an AC supplier called the HVAC vendor. He had a VPN to Target network. They couldn't penetrate Target, but they could penetrate the AC vendor. They penetrated his machine. He had a VPN into Target. They used that, entered it. They infected 1 lakh, credit card machines, what is called as POS terminals, point of sale terminals, 1 lakh. And they stole credit card numbers. The result of which so many people lost jobs, including the CEO of Target. $2 billion Target lost. Target was targeted. So ECA is a feature which will help you to prevent that hack, that attack. The VPN, this VPN may not be your own employees, it could be contractors, suppliers, vendors. Anybody whom you are giving VPN access, you can check the health of the system. And this feature is also part of 45,000 rupees. So at 45, you get all of these. Management console is there. So the additional features, I have no time, but I will skip through. So you can do URL filtering, you can do sandboxing, you can do web security. What my colleague Ashwini spoke about, right? You remember Ashwini? While you were not so awake, one guy was standing here and speaking. All of us were awake, right? Yeah. So Ashwini spoke about Gatsby. Those Gatsby features are available on the box absolutely free, but only for visibility. There's 2 things in Gatsby, visibility and control. So all the visibility features are available on the firewall free of cost at 45,000 rupees. The control features, then you have to catch hold of Ashwini and buy that, put it on the cloud and do that. Right? I hope we're all on the same page. I'm under intense pressure. People are going to take a chair and throw on me. They're saying, close it. We want to go and drink. But he doesn't even drink. I don't know why he is so restless. Anyway. So something in future coming soon in a theater near you, like that movie, Rajnikant movie. This is coming soon, is called as UEBA features, wherein we will be able to check the behavior of the endpoint and then apply policies. It might be too much for me to get into that. This slide also I will skip. These are the models we have, and we begin with the 110 box. Which price is? Wow, this is first time you have all spoken collectively. Now I know what works in Kerala. So this is our roadmap. Again, I'll skip this, but then a lot of security related features. And our primary DNA is to make your life easy. Once you put this, your life as an administrator will be far, far, far more easier. And believe me, as a seller, I will tell you, it's very difficult to measure. No RFP term, no reverse auction, no purchase guy, no admin guy will be able to judge this. Only if you buy a solution and, Ratta Kannir they say in Tamil, I don't know the Malayalam equivalent. When you start bleeding eyes, when you want to do a VPN connection between location A and location B and you struggle, that's when you will know that this technology would have done the same thing, maybe few dollars more or few dollars less. So it makes your life easy, admin life easy, and very, very difficult to quantify this. You have to do a POC at least for some 6-7 months. You remember that movie, a Tamil movie in which one guy gets married, he signs that 1 year we will be married, contract, it's like that, should get it, they'll throw me out, I think. So this is the management console, and this is where you do the drag and drop. I'm not sure how many of you can see it. You drag, drop, you click this plus button, VPN is created. Sitting in one location, you can monitor the box and all your ISPs. The health of the ISPs, what is the jitter, what is the delay, what is the RTT, all features of your ISP and your box can be monitored from a central location. This box can sit in the cloud, can sit in your partner's office, can sit in your office. With role-based administration control, you can determine who can see what and things like that. Awesome features, you can push policies very, very quickly. 2-3 minutes is enough to push policies to 200 branch offices. So this is the tip of the iceberg. This is what your purchase team does, and this is what you undergo. The more branches you have, the more deployment, configuration, upgrade, policy, VPNs. This is where the cost of a VPN or a SD-WAN and the cost of a firewall lies. Right? This is the tip. This is just the tip of the iceberg. What your finance purchase team helps. They will catch all the vendors, beat them till the last piece of cloth is there in the body. They will extract discount and put the box, but they are only looking at the top. This is what you undergo as a trouble when you are running the box. And this is where we are focused. Of course, we are giving you that at 45,000 rupees, but this is where we are focused. And by these features, we make the iceberg into half. Right? What are the features we have? Uniform across all the platforms. So you can buy our firewall, our SD-WAN as a software, run it in your server. You can buy it as a hardware from us, do plug and play. You can buy it in virtual environment. You can buy it in cloud. There are 4 flavors, but all the 4 flavors uses the same software. None of the other vendors do it. Nobody does that, including Cisco. They all use different codes for different delivery mechanisms because of the compulsions that they have. But we do what is called unified. So you can get same policy in Amazon, same policy in AWS, same everywhere. Second is integrated device, zero touch deployment I spoke about. No need to go to Lakshadweep for configuration. You can go for OT, okay. High availability, I'll skip all this. It makes your life easy. They're going to beat me. I think I've covered most of these features. Most of these are covered. No external load balancers. No clapping, please. So this is one of the testimonies that we got from a customer called Avency. He is using this box for 6 years. This is last year, so it is now 7 years. For 7 years, this customer has used a cluster with 0-second downtime. In the cluster as a whole, no downtime. But each unit has undergone many upgrades inside, outside the cluster. So cluster as a whole has, so this guy is an MSSP provider, it's a small ISP in Switzerland, and they have had 0-second downtime with our technology, which is an awesome thing to have. So with that, Gartner, we are here. Again, many people ask me, you are talking so well, you have so many features, everything you have, why the hell you are not leader? Does that question come in your mind? Does anybody have that question? Who has that question? Please raise their hand. You have that question. Only one person. So the answer to that question, incidentally, very nice answer is, Gartner is a techno-commercial quadrant. It depends on your technology and how much sales you do. So in terms of technology, we have from here to here, we got it. Now if ForcePoint has to go from here to here, we need your help. The more POs you give, the more serious. So all the people who raised your hands, please give us POs. We will take ForcePoint up to leaders quadrant. Inda sare. Good deal. So please help us to move to the Gartner's leader quadrant. Now I'm tired of myself and my jokes. This is a summary. I think we have done 2 enterprise solutions. With this, I would like to invite Sendil of SNS, who is our partner, to quickly walk you through. Sendil people are very, very restless. You are standing between them and their favorite liquor. Brandy Putti. That song was beautiful. Jim Ki Kamal. And Appanda Brandy Putti and Amman Kurchititi. My children sing it. I learned it from them.
Thanks, Ajay. Good evening, all. After a lot of ForcePoint Green, we have. The last 4 years, we are ISO 27001 company, which is the global standard for information security. CRISIL, we have been rating ourselves for the last 4 years, where our ratings have been improved year on year. And last week, we got this SME 1, which is the highest in SME rating. So this is one point I want to highlight here is that there are a lot of partners with whom you'll be working who does a lot of whole things, but SNS is one company who does only security. You come across partners who do also security. They do a lot of other things, but we as an organization stand out in terms of doing only security. This is an ecosystem beyond ForcePoint, where you buy ForcePoint, NGFW is a lovely product. If you are to integrate with some of your existing ecosystem, this is another ecosystem of products which we support and we have skill sets. Just running this through. Okay, this is what we do. When we talk about security and product portfolio, this is what we do. As in cloud, a Gatsby, data security, a DLP, network security, a NGFW, consulting and training. Training is customized as you want. We would customize it for you and do it either at your premises or at our training center in Chennai. These are the stacks of technologies across domains. These are some of the awards we have got. This is a lot of pride for us. IBM is a global award which we got. And ForcePoint awarded as the best partner for India last year. Thanks, Ajay and team. These are the verticals, customer verticals. So security is now relevant to anybody in any industry. So these are the verticals we work with. So we are a security domain expert. We run across with any vertical, as in a hospital or an education or enterprise or a IT services organization, a bank, a BFSI, a lot of verticals. Yeah. Some of our large logos which we have been supporting for across technologies. Just run this through. Our presence, this is what I was talking about. So we are almost there in every part of the country. Reach out to you in the next 1 day's time when you want us to be on site. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sendil. I would now like to invite Calvin, who is from our distributor iValue. iValue has been instrumental in putting this event together along with SNS. So Calvin, please take the stage and share some of your thoughts. Remember where you're standing between them and there.
Still not working. Yeah, I'll not take much of time. See, we are basically a 10-year-old organization, and we are the gateway of solutions, gateway of India to get a lot of niche solutions to India. And we've been doing this for the last 10 years, and we specialize in DNA, that we do anything around DNA, data network and application protection and management is our key. We help a lot of customers in automation, we help a lot of customers in orchestration, and this is our expertise. We have a pre-sales team also. We are about a 600 crore company as of now, and I will not talk anything much more than this.
Thanks, Kelvin. Thank you. So we have a feedback form, so we will request you to please fill and exchange it for your goodie. Please collect your goodie as well. And with that, we open it to any question answers, any questions that anybody might have. We still have 10 minutes. I don't know why people wave their hands so friendly. Any questions? Yeah. You need a mic?
I just want, you mentioned about the Gatsby part, right? So, do you have any comparison slide or comparison sheet which with any of your competitors?
Yeah, so we compare ourselves with all leading Gatsby vendors. I will make sure that we will reach out to you. Chitra, where are you? So Chitra, you please coordinate between us and sir and make sure that this is given. But one point I want to mention is that amongst all the players, some of those features that you will not probably find in the sheet is our ability to manage with agent without agent. Because you cannot deploy agent in every machine in the world. So some places where you cannot deploy agent, you still get the same level of security, which is a great functionality. And another great feature that you will not find in any solution is, we spoke about 4 problems today. One of the problems was too many logs, and how do I, make too many events? How do I, filter out? In English, you have this thing called, how do I take the needle of the haystack? 700 events your firewall gives, 698 are useless, 2 are important. Which are those 2 important? You don't know. That was what the point that we spoke in the beginning. That's called as incident risk ranking, which is again a unique feature which we have. So we will make sure that you get all these details. Ashwini, do you want to...
For the gardener, you are saying?
No. Gatsby, do you want to add anything on?
Yeah, so we have like many unique features. Like some of them I already stated, like account privacy, like data protect. Yeah.
My point was, do you have a comparison sheet? So that,
Yes.
that will help
Sure,
us.
Definitely,
sure.
definitely.
We are
Definitely.
actually, point is we are actually doing a POC on Gatsby.
Okay.
So I can see.
Definitely,
Wonderful,
definitely,
wonderful. Please
definitely.
consider us as well, and you will find that there is a sea of difference. We are also integrated to all our products. So we spoke about 4 problems in the beginning of the session, right? Let me remind you those 4 problems. The first one was data is lying everywhere, being accessed from anywhere. So which solution do you think gives you the tools to control it? Data is lying everywhere. In the cloud also it is there. It is lying everywhere. How do you control it? So by using Gatsby and DLP. The second problem we discussed was too many products. not talking to each other. And like you might have figured by now, all our products are integrated with each other. You have a DLP, you have a Gatsby, no need to configure Gatsby. The moment you connect the Gatsby to our DLP, all the policies are auto-populated into the Gatsby dashboard. You have to just go and edit the policies. End of the day, DLP and Gatsby is about controlling the data flow. So all features, all products are integrated. We solve the second problem. Third problem, my personal favorite. Too many logs, too many events. What do? Needle is lost in the haystack. Where do I search? It's a golden needle. I can't buy a new one also. So how do we search? The way we can search is by using incident risk ranking. It is a standard feature in all our products. None of the vendor gives you. Incident risk ranking is our IP, our intellectual property, through which you can run a report and say, last 24 hours, these are the most riskiest users. You double click on the user, it will tell you why is he risky. In DLP he did this, in proxy he did this, in firewall he did this, that is why he is most risky. No need to go through all the logs, no need for your SIM tool to give logs and for you to understand that log. Right? It is very, very, very convenient and easy. And the fourth point was all security products are post-mortem, post-facto. Nothing is proactive. So we have a functionality called as UEBA. We didn't have time to go through that in detail, but just to give you an overall hint, UEBA is User Entity Behavioral Analytics. That tool is like my wife. If you put it in the network, it will judge the mood of the husband. Whether this guy is angry, happy, disgruntled, danger to the organization, will cause harm. Right? All our wives and mothers can see our face and tell what mood we are in. So UEBA does that job. Not exactly in that equivalent, but it can tell you what is the behavior of this person. Is he danger to the organization? Is he in an angry mood? Is he in a disgruntled mood? We look at various parameters. UEBA is a 3-hour session. I will not go in detail, but just to give you a hint, we have built the UEBA functionality free of cost on all our endpoints. So you buy a firewall, the endpoint will have UEBA, which will monitor the endpoint behavior. So all the 4 problems, the human point problems that we spoke about, are addressed by our technology, as a result of which one thing is ForcePoint makes your life far more easier, admin's life far more easier. So with that, I conclude. Any questions we can discuss on the stage or offlay. What do we say that? Okay, on the rocks. That's also a good word. With that, thank you, gentlemen. You have given a wonderful audience. It was nice talking to you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.